welcome to this case study on leadership and talent development at Bureau Veritas. And big welcome to Kathryn Dolan and Maria Rui from Bureau Veritas, who have very kindly agreed to give us a bit of their time and tell us all about their work on this area. So, Kathryn and Maria, maybe you could just give us a quick introduction into your role. Tell us what you do.
So, hi, I'm Kathryn Dolan. So I'm the Vice President for Human Resources, responsible for Europe, excluding France, because that's our home country. That is a separate entity in its own right. So it's 27 countries and about 7,000 employees in total. And I've been with Bureau Veritas about 3 years.
Thank you. Thanks, Kathryn. Maria.
Hi, Joe, thank you for this opportunity. I'm in the team of Kathryn, and I'm responsible for talent and culture for Europe. So this 360 feedback was one of the projects that I have led for our operating group.
That's great. That's great. So you guys are doing amazing work on leadership and talent at Bureau Veritas. So, I don't know, Kathryn, maybe we could start with what the drivers were. What are the drivers for leadership and talent at Bureau Veritas?
Yeah, so if I just talk a moment about Bureau Veritas. So we would describe ourselves as a business to society company. So we basically support our clients around environmental protection, social responsibility, health and safety. And actually, it's about building trust with our clients, but also for the end consumers and the communities within which we work. So BV globally has got 80,000 employees and actually a very long, rich history. So we've been in existence for almost 200 years. So I think actually our ability to adapt, evolve, transform, respond to changing societal expectations is absolutely crucial to our relevance as a business. And I think therefore our leadership and talent strategy it's fundamental to how we as a business, as a services company, can adapt to that external environment.
Okay. And so how does that lead into your approach to your talent and leadership development?
So we are quite a diverse organisation in terms of skills, capabilities, geography, of course. So our approach is to ensure that we have very clear talent segments across both leadership, but also individual contributor roles that are deep and diversified enough to really fuel the business and support our ambition. So we do have a blended strategy of build and buy. So obviously we are recruiting, but our main priority is actually to develop the capability in-house. So that would be our priority from that point of view. So really what we do is we identify these very clear talent segments, but obviously leadership is such a key component of that, because in order to fuel that transformation, agility, and actually make sure that BV is fulfilling its purpose, we need to make sure we have the right leadership capability in place.
Okay. And so that brings us then to the leadership interventions that you've been working on. And so what are they based on? What is the basis of your leadership interventions?
So we have created a framework which applies globally around our leadership expectations. So we have very clear leadership expectations. In Bureau Veritas, being a leader is not a free ride. It's a privilege, and actually that role really influences business outcomes, but also impacts how people feel about working at our company. So we place a huge emphasis and expectation on our leaders, and that's very clearly articulated. And then that's underpinned by leadership competencies as well. So we have 12 leadership competencies that underpin these leadership expectations. So although we have a very decentralized organisation within Bureau Veritas, which allows us to cater for local needs, actually this global foundation allows us to make sure that as an overall entity, an overall company, we are able to fuel the leadership capability that we need.
So it's a sort of it's consistent. Then it's a consistent approach across the whole organisation. Okay.
Yeah, but one thing I think it's important to say is, so it's a framework, but actually what happens is at a local level, there is more freedom and flexibility to deploy that in a way which is right for different regional needs and context. The intention is not to create a mold of a BV leader, but actually what are the core competencies, what are the essence, what's the expectations of leaders in our company, and that's what we base our leadership development around.
Okay. So moving on to the competencies, I know that one of the key competencies is self-awareness. And so, Maria, why did the organisation select self-awareness, as one of those key competencies?
Yeah, as Kathryn said, the overall framework is just one part. And we believe that understanding our strengths, our blind spots, as well our impact as leaders is the foundation for everything else. And that's why we believe that using the 360 feedback at scale is one of the pillars for our leadership development. Okay. We believe that self-awareness is, after all, the first step for continuous development and also key for leading others. So once we know ourselves and we find our essence, this will help us to be more authentic and more effective as a leader. When we have implemented the 360 feedback across Europe, we underlined that self-awareness is an essential first step toward maximizing leadership skills, because for us, it promotes and enables self-reflections, but at the same time, gives us a holistic view on how we are impacting on others. This 360 feedback, the report we get, and the discussions that we have with people about it, is after all essential to build their individual development plan. For sure, that 360 feedback is bringing value at individual level, as we already mentioned, but we also believe that now we have enough data to show some trends in terms of our strengths and our gaps amongst the different levels of our leadership and talent segments that Kathryn mentioned. And we can see some organizational trends on this. This information is allowing us to target and plan much better our investment in leadership development. Actually, it's interesting to share that one of the trends that we are seeing through the 360 is there is still a gap on self-awareness. This is only reinforcing the business case of why we have selected this core competency, but also why the use of 360 is so important for us.
I think Maria hit on a really important point to me, which is, conceptually, we believe that self-awareness was a critical leadership competency and was in our global framework. But actually, by embarking on this 360 journey at scale, it's actually reinforced that this is indeed a gap and an area where we need to continue to focus. So we sense something conceptually, but the 360 has actually provided us with concrete evidence to say, yes, self-awareness continues to be a key area of focus. And certainly from a business point of view, it helps us to articulate the business case around 360.
Okay, and so has that helped? Obviously, you mentioned the individual development plans. I think, Maria, you said, people take their feedback to their individual development plan. And do they use that then as a daily or a regular discussion document? Is that something that follows through on a regular basis?
Yeah, exactly. We have set up a kind of debrief session with them, meeting with their line manager to review this individual development plan. And then there is a follow-up of the evolution and the progress that they are doing.
Right. Okay.
I think one of the, if I may, I think from my point of view, looking overall at our kind of growth muscle and organizational capability and leadership capability that we have, I think for me, the power is what we've learned from doing this 360 at scale is, irrespective of the level of leadership or talent that we're looking at, whether it's individual contributor or more in a people management, actually, that we have a common strengths. So there's like two top strengths that appear irrespective of what type of role you're doing in the organisation, and two emerging themes around development. Mm-hmm. So from a strategic point of view, I think it's really given great insight for Maria and I to work at, okay, at an organisational level, what is it that we need to put in place over and above the individual development plan to address the organisational gap. Right. I think it also has allowed me, when we're talking about, so I share with you, one of those is around strategic thinking as an area where we need to increase our focus. As we're going into a new kind of strategic plan period, one of the discussions that Maria and I are having is, how do we equip our managers, knowing that we have this organisational gap, to really enable them to think more deeply around their strategic plan for the next 3 to 5 years. So I think it's allowed us to bring that into a business context, mm-hmm. which has obviously helped support the process.
And I guess when you've got that sort of organisation-wide view, it's easier to make decisions, or it helps to make decisions around development, about where you're going to invest your time and efforts into areas for development.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess following on from what you've been talking about, Maria, on the feedback side, have you had, what's been the general response as an organisation to this type of feedback, across the whole organisation, consistent? Do you have any feeling of what the response has been, or how people have taken to it?
I feel that after all, because Bureau Veritas really wants to push a culture of feedback, and right. This 360 feedback, after all, allow us to have these kind of conversations and make it part of our daily basis to give and receive feedback. And in general, I'm feeling that people appreciate it, and this is also a way to improve our skills, how to do it well, let's say. And I feel in general that at Bureau Veritas, our leaders, our talents, the people that is going through this process is quite curious about the results. They are open to reflect about it and actually do something about it. And much more than having a report that is give you so much insights and so much value information, is how you convert these in concrete actions that actually allows you to be more effective and more impactful as a leader, let's say. So I think they are conscious of it and they see the value of it.
I think one of the most pleasing aspects from my point of view, obviously Maria has led the design and deployment of this, is that we are now starting to see leaders and managers proactively come to us to say that they want to be part of or extend the 360 deployment into their regions or their scopes. So for me, this is a real tipping point, because it's not HR or us promoting it or pushing it purely as a kind of HR initiative. The business leaders themselves are really seeing the value of increasing this self-awareness and the value of the tool. So I think it's always a measure of success when the business are pulling rather than us pushing.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. So I suppose one of the questions is, you mentioned that this is obviously a global, your competencies are across the whole organization. But you also said that there's local, people act locally, think globally, act locally. And I guess, how does that work then? Without a huge amount of detail, but how does that work at a local level? How much control do you have over that? Do you just sort of provide advice on how to do feedback and the self-awareness side of things?
We usually, every time we deploy a 360 project in a specific country or connected with a specific development program or leadership program, we always promote some training, no, to remind people what is a proper feedback, no, besides the piece of how we do it in the platform or a formal aspect is how to do it properly. So this is something that we try to refresh every time we launch a project, just to make sure that people have this in mind when delivering the feedback. But then it's up to the countries to adapt to the culture, to the context, what makes more sense for them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great though. I think, sorry, Kathryn, go on, you were going to say.
Yeah, I was going to say at program level, the way that I would describe it is, if we take this as a particular example, so we have the global leadership expectations, we have the global competencies. It was, and self-awareness was one of them at a global level. At a European level, really the design and implementation decisions were Maria and I. So we believed that actually we wanted to create a tool, a 360 tool, which we could use at scale, that was built around our leadership competencies.
Yeah.
So the way that it works is, yes, we are leading on that initiative globally. I don't know whether other continents are using it in the same way that we are, but where the consistency comes in is that, you know, we're very mindful that we build it around the global competencies, but then how we choose to deploy it is our decision locally, which makes sense for us. And the model of BV is, you know, I believe that we are proving the business value. I've talked about the pull from the business, the fact that we can use it at an individual and more strategic level. The concept is that we can kind of pilot it and then scale. So within Bureau Veritas, if Europe can prove and demonstrate how this is bringing value to the business, then it may be that is picked up and adopted by other parts of the organisation. But there for sure is a consistent global thread, I would say, through the development initiatives.
Okay. So what's working really well, Maria? I mean, you've already told, actually, you kind of covered that, really.
Somehow Kathryn also mentioned some of these things already, but I would say that is the balance between the global strategic ambition and framework that we have mentioned versus the local deployment and execution. No, that this autonomy, no, to do it. This global framework that we have around the leadership competency, the expectations, the core people processes, after all, is providing us a real alignment, common understanding, and clarity, which is very good for us. And we also have a good leadership and development programs and tools in place, which are somehow all aligned and reinforce each other. Some of them at corporate level, some of them at European level, like this 360. And for us, this is bringing the real value to our current and future leaders, as we are seeing that progressively, as Kathryn mentioned before, the business is demanding us rather than being pushed or feel that is something that is sold by HR. When we even look to our employee engagement survey, we can also see that the leadership generally is scored positively. So we can perceive that our focus on this is having a positive impact and overall, in all overalls of the engagement levels.
I think that's a really important point, Maria. And I think the other thing that I would add is it's very clear that these leadership expectations and the leadership competencies are built in and consistently reinforced through other core people processes, whether it's performance management, how we onboard people, the training they get as a new manager or as a new hire coming into the organisation, how we recognise people. So that mutual reinforcement, which I think also helps our leaders and our future and current and future leaders understand that this is really important, which is why we get the focus and buy-in at at a business level.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have that whole integration, so people are seeing that same level of leadership capability all the way through. They can, I guess, they can sort of see as they go through the organisation, and they can see those same competencies all the way through, which is great. What about challenges, Kathryn? What would you say your biggest challenge is currently on this?
So I would say that if I take it at a global level, I think we've got the framework, but I think we still can improve how we leverage talent more broadly across the different regions within our company. So, yes, we've got a very deep understanding of the depth of leadership capability, our talent pipeline within our region, but how do we deploy that more effectively across the globe? So I think that's still something. And I think one of the things that we've highlighted as a positive is that we have this think global, but you've got the ability to act local. And Bureau Veritas is a very decentralized organization, so we can implement things quickly and at pace, and we can have that agility that we talked about that is so important for our business. The flip side of that decentralization is how do you then leverage and make connections more broadly across the organization? So I think that's still a challenge. I think the other challenge that I would say is when we are thinking about leadership potential and talent potential, we still have more work to do in making sure that our leaders are really effective talent spotters, and they're not identifying people for other criteria or other reasons. It genuinely is that they can take on a bigger, broader role. So that's an ongoing evolution as part of our talent review discussions, and really being clear about what do we mean when we talk about potential.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the final one for me is really reinforcing that taking time out to do self-development or to focus on your own personal growth is not secondary to other business priorities, that actually how do we help our people understand the connection that if they can create some time and focus around their own development, actually it will help them to more effectively deliver those business priorities rather than just seeing it as a nice to have. So I think that's changing for sure, but we're all busy, we all have many things to do, so it's actually trying to make it very clear that this is about helping them be more effective, not a luxury of time. So that's about embedding more that learning and development culture within our organisation.
That's always a challenge, isn't it? For very busy people, very busy professionals to develop themselves. But I think with building the self-awareness is obviously a very big piece of that, isn't it? That's
absolutely
the starting point. That's the starting point. Is there anything else that that's really a great sort of summary of what you guys have been doing. And, it sounds like a really interesting journey. And I know that there's more to come, but it sounds like you've achieved a lot in the time that, you've been putting this together. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yes, for my side, no, just thank you, Joe, for giving us the chance to share how we are handling and managing these topics at Bureau Veritas.
Yeah, the same. And, I think Maria's done an amazing job of deploying this across Europe. And one of the things for me is it's actually surpassed my expectations in terms of the value that it would bring, not because also what we're now using the insights for is helping to give us real clarity on other interventions that we need to make at an individual and global level. So for me, it really has been foundational in where we invest our time and energy from a development point of view. So it's been a really good experience.
Yeah, and thank you to your team and to yourself, Joe, because your support was always very good. And I'm thankful for that during the deployment, but also currently every time it's needed, you are very quick answering and supporting our needs. So I really appreciate that too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. I appreciate that feedback too. Thank you so much. And thanks again, both of you. I know you're both very busy, so I really appreciate the time you've taken. And yeah, thank you again.
Thanks a lot.